If you receive SSI or SSDI, or if someone you love depends on Social Security benefits, you need to stay right here for the next few minutes. Because what I'm about to break down could directly affect your bank account, your back payments, your eligibility, and your financial future in 2026. Most people don't find out about this stuff until it's already happened. Either the money landed and they don't understand why, or worse, they missed something they were entitled to and nobody told them. I don't want that to happen to you. So stay with me. I'm going to explain all of this in plain English, step by step. No confusing government language, no runaround. Just the truth about what's going on with these payments, what they mean for you, and exactly what you should do right now. Let's start at the beginning because I want to make sure everyone watching this, whether you've been on benefits for 20 years or you just got approved last month, understands what we're talking about. There are two major programs run by the Social Security Administration, and people mix them up all the time. So let's clear this up right now because it actually matters a lot when we get to the payment numbers. The first one is SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. This is for people who worked, paid into Social Security through their paychecks, and then became disabled before reaching full retirement age. Your SSDI payment amount is based on your work history, your earnings record, how long you worked, and how much you contributed to the system over your lifetime. So two people on SSD, I can receive very different monthly amounts. One person might get $800 a month, another might get $2,400, and both of those numbers can be completely correct depending on their history. The second program is SSI, Supplemental Security Income. This one is different. SSI is needs-based, meaning it doesn't care how much you worked or whether you worked at all. It's designed for people who are elderly, blind, or disabled, and who have very limited income and resources. SSI has a federal base rate that's the same for everyone, though some states add a little extra on top of that. These are two separate programs, two separate sets of rules, but here's the thing, a lot of people are actually on both at the same time. That's called being concurrently entitled, and it matters a lot when we talk about these larger payment figures you may have been hearing about. So when you see a number like $14,000 floating around online or on social media, I want you to understand where that number can actually come from. Because it's not made up, but it's also not as simple as everyone's getting a check for $14,000. Stay with me because this part is really important and I don't want anyone to misunderstand it. Here's what a lot of people don't realize. The Social Security Administration doesn't always pay you everything you're owed right away. There are delays. There are processing backlogs. There are appeals that take months or even years to resolve. And during all that time that your case is being reviewed or reconsidered, the clock is still ticking on what you're entitled to. So when a decision finally comes through in your favor, whether that's an initial approval after a long wait, or a successful appeal, or a reconsideration that finally goes your way, the SSA then calculates everything they owe you from the date you were determined to be eligible all the way up to the present. That total amount is called back pay or retroactive benefits, and this is where large lump sums come from. This is where a number like $14,000 or even higher becomes very real for a lot of people. Let me give you a real-world example so this lands properly. Imagine someone applies for SSDI in early 2024. Their application gets denied. They appeal. The appeal process takes another year and a half. Finally, in mid-2026, a judge rules in their favor and determines they've been disabled since their original application date. Now, the SSA has to go back to that 2024 date and calculate how much they should have been receiving every single month since then. If their monthly benefit is, say, $1,400 and they've been waiting 18 months, that's $25,200 in back pay. Not a fantasy. That's just math. And yes, for SSDI, there's something called the 5-month waiting period that gets subtracted. But even with that, the numbers can be substantial. For SSI, the back pay calculation works a little differently, and there are caps on how it gets paid out, but the point is the same. People who've been waiting are now getting large payments, and if you're one of those people, you need to understand what's happening and why. Now let's talk about 2026 specifically, because there have been real updates this year that SSI and SSDI recipients need to be aware of. The cost of living adjustment, what the SSA calls the COLA, went into effect at the beginning of 2026, and it increased monthly benefits by a meaningful percentage. This adjustment is applied automatically. You don't apply for it, you don't have to call anyone. It just shows up in your payment. But here's where people get confused. If your benefit amount changed and you also have back pay or retroactive payments being calculated, those COLA adjustments affect the retroactive amounts too. So someone who's been waiting on a decision and finally gets approved in 2026 might have their back pay recalculated upward because of the COLA, and that can push a lump sum payment into ranges that feel significant, like that $14,000 figure or higher. Let's take a step back and also talk about who specifically is most likely to be seeing or expecting larger payments right now in 2026. The first group is people who applied during the massive backlog years 2022, 2023, and 2024, when processing times got stretched to historic lengths. A lot of those cases are still working their way through the system, and as they resolve, those beneficiaries are going to be receiving substantial back pay. The second group is people who were on SSI and had overpayment issues that were later corrected or waived. The SSA has been under serious public and congressional pressure over the last couple of years for aggressive overpayment collection practices, and there have been policy changes that resulted in some recipients getting money returned or credited back to them. If you were in a situation where SSA was withholding part of your check to collect an overpayment, and that situation has since been resolved or forgiven, you could be due a credit or a corrected payment. The third group is people receiving both SSI and SSDI, those concurrent beneficiaries I mentioned earlier, because their payment calculations involve both programs, and corrections or adjustments in either one can compound. Now here's something I really want you to pay attention to, because this is the part that trips people up constantly. When you receive a large lump sum payment from Social Security, whether it's back pay, retroactive benefits, or a corrected payment, it can affect other things in your life that are tied to your income or resources. This is especially true for SSI recipients. SSI has strict income and resource limits. The current resource limit for an individual SSI recipient is $2,000. If you suddenly have a large sum of money deposited into your bank account and your account balance goes above that $2,000 limit, the SSA could determine that you're over the resource limit and reduce or even suspend your SSI going forward. I know that sounds almost cruel. Here's your money, but now it might hurt you, and it's one of the most frustrating aspects of this program. But I'm telling you this not to scare you, but because knowing it in advance gives you options. Here's what a lot of people don't realize. There are legal SSA-approved ways to handle a large lump sum without losing your SSI eligibility. One of the most common is something called an ABLE account. That's ABLE. It stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. An ABLE account is a tax-advantaged savings account specifically designed for people with disabilities. Money in an ABLE account, up to a certain limit, does not count against your SSI resource limit. So if you receive a large back pay deposit, you may be able to move a portion of it into an ABLE account and protect your ongoing eligibility. Another option is a special needs trust, which is a legal structure set up specifically to hold funds for a person with a disability without it counting as a countable resource for SSI purposes. These are legitimate tools that exist precisely for situations like this, and if you're expecting a large payment, it's worth knowing they exist before the money arrives. Let me also talk about what you should actually do right now, because I don't want this to just be information that sounds interesting and then you move on. If you're currently waiting on an SSI or SSDI decision, whether it's a new application, an appeal, or a reconsideration, the most important thing you can do is make sure your contact information with the SSA is completely up to date. Phone number, address, email if they have it. Because when a decision comes through, they're going to notify you. And if that notification goes to an old address or an old number, you might not even know it happened right away. You can check your contact information through your My Social Security online account at ssa.gov. If you don't have one of those accounts set up yet, please do it today. It takes about 10 minutes and it lets you see your benefit information, your payment history, your estimated amounts, and any notices the SSA has sent you. If you're already receiving benefits and you think you might be owed back pay or a corrected amount, don't just wait and hope it shows up. Call the SSA directly at 1-800-772-1213 or visit your local Social Security office. Ask specifically about the status of your account, whether there are any pending adjustments, and whether any back pay is owed to you. I know calling the SSA can feel like an ordeal, the hold times can be brutal, but if there's money owed to you, it's worth the wait on hold. Now I have to bring up something that I absolutely cannot skip, because every single time there's news about larger Social Security payments, the scammers come out in force. This is not an exaggeration. Scammers monitor the news. They see headlines about $14,000 SSA payments and they immediately start calling people, texting people, emailing people, pretending to be from the Social Security Administration. They'll say things like, "We need to verify your information to process your payment," or "There's a problem with your account and you need to call us back immediately to avoid losing your benefits," or "We can expedite your back pay if you pay a processing fee." Please hear me clearly. None of that is real. The Social Security Administration does not call you out of the blue demanding personal information. They do not ask for payment to release your benefits. They do not threaten to suspend your Social Security number over the phone. If you get a call like that, hang up. If you get a text like that, delete it. If someone shows up at your door claiming to be from Social Security, ask to see official credentials and call the SSA directly to verify. Real Social Security business happens through the mail, through ssa.gov, or through scheduled appointments that you initiate. Protect yourself. Protect your elderly family members who might be more vulnerable to these calls. Let's also take a moment to talk about what's happening more broadly with Social Security policy in 2026, because the environment around these programs has been shifting in ways that affect everyone on benefits. There has been ongoing discussion at the federal level about the long-term solvency of the Social Security trust funds. Actuaries and Social Security trustees have been very clear in their annual reports that without legislative changes, the combined trust funds face potential depletion within the next decade, which would trigger automatic benefit reductions under current law. Now, and I want to be very careful here, that has not happened, and Congress has repeatedly stepped in historically to prevent that kind of cut. But it's something that policymakers are actively debating right now. And if you're relying on Social Security for the long term, it's worth paying attention to that conversation and making sure your representatives know how you feel about it. What has changed in a more immediate sense is the SSA's approach to overpayment collection, which I mentioned earlier. After significant backlash over cases where the SSA was clawing back overpayments from people who had no idea they'd been overpaid, sometimes going back years, the agency introduced new rules limiting how aggressively they can collect and giving beneficiaries stronger rights to request waivers. If you've ever received an overpayment notice that you believe is wrong, or if you simply cannot afford to pay it back, you have the right to request a waiver. That waiver process is not automatic. You have to ask for it. But if it's granted, the overpayment is forgiven, and you don't have to repay it. This is real. This matters, and a lot of people don't know they can ask for it. Here's something else that's worth understanding as we head deeper into 2026. The Social Security Administration has been working to expand its online services and reduce some of the in-person requirements that have historically made it harder for disabled individuals to manage their benefits. More notices are going digital, more requests can be submitted online, and the My Social Security portal has been getting updated with new features. If you haven't used the online system in a while, it's worth logging back in and exploring what's available, because some things that used to require a phone call or an office visit can now be handled from home. If you have a representative payee, someone who receives and manages your Social Security benefits on your behalf, make sure that relationship is set up correctly and that the person in that role is actually looking out for your interests. The SSA has also increased scrutiny on representative payees in recent years, requiring more documentation and accountability, which is a good thing for beneficiaries. But if you're in that situation, make sure you know who your payee is, how to contact them, and that you have visibility into how your benefits are being managed. I want to come back to the emotional side of this for a moment because I know that for a lot of people watching this, benefits aren't just numbers on a statement. They're rent, they're groceries, they're medication. They're the difference between stability and crisis. And when there's news about larger payments or back pay or changes to the system, it can feel like a lifeline or like a trap if you don't understand the rules. My whole goal with this video is to make sure you're informed enough to make decisions that are actually good for you, not just react to a headline. The system is complicated on purpose, it seems sometimes, and the people who navigate it best are the people who take the time to understand it, or who have someone in their corner helping them understand it. If you don't have a disability attorney or a Social Security advocate, and you're in the middle of an appeal or a complicated situation, please consider reaching out to one. Many disability attorneys work on contingency, meaning they only get paid if you win your case, and their fee is capped by federal law at 25% of your back pay, up to a maximum amount. They literally have a financial incentive to get you the most money possible, and they know the system inside and out. If you're fighting a denial alone, you don't have to be. So let me bring this all together for you. The headlines about $14,000 payments are real in the sense that many SSI and SSDI recipients are receiving or are owed significant lump sum payments as a result of long processing delays, successful appeals, corrected overpayments, and the compounding effect of COLA adjustments on retroactive amounts. This is not a one-time bonus from the government, it's not stimulus money, and it doesn't apply to everyone automatically. But if you've been waiting on a decision, if you've had an overpayment situation, if you're a concurrent beneficiary with a complicated history, there may be real money that belongs to you that hasn't been paid yet. And knowing that is the first step to claiming it. Check your My Social Security account at SSA.gov. Call the SSA if you have questions. Talk to a disability attorney if you're in a dispute. Protect your SSI eligibility if you receive a large lump sum by learning about ABLE accounts and special needs trusts. Watch out for scammers who are going to use this news to try to take advantage of you. And stay engaged with the broader policy conversation because the future of these programs is being decided right now by people in Washington, and your voice matters in that process. Don't leave money on the table. Don't let a deadline pass because nobody told you it existed. Don't let a scammer take what rightfully belongs to you. Stay informed, check your account, share this video with someone who depends on Social Security and needs to hear this. Because I promise you, there is someone in your life right now who didn't know half of what we just covered, and this information could genuinely change their situation.